Excellent. Well, thank you so much for being here today with me, Rebecca. And you are on the other side of the world, so it's early Monday morning for you. So happy Monday.
Thank you very much. And evening for you, Maria.
Yes, indeed. So I wanted to have a short introduction. This is another remarkable conversation, and I am thrilled to be joined today by someone who has created ripple effects across industries, helping businesses not just to grow, but to scale with purpose and sustainability. And here is Rebecca Jenkins from the other side of the world in the UK, and she brings a blend of entrepreneurial grit and corporate leadership, which is so needed today, even though it seems like a buzzword leadership today. But from scaling her own business to an impressive 55 million pounds to helping others secure and retain high value clients. And that sounds amazing. So your story, Rebecca, is one of transformation and strategic impact. And this is an honor to be here with you. I recently met you in another program that we are doing together. And to get us started, would you mind introducing yourself for those that are tuning into this remarkable conversation? But also, we are here creating a digital impact for many years to come. So please introduce yourself.
Maria, thank you. In a nutshell, I help businesses to grow their revenue profitably by winning high value clients. So, living in the UK, I have a family, and my son actually lives in Australia. So, I feel the tie with Australia, having been there earlier this year and absolutely fell in love with it. What a
Beautiful.
phenomenal place.
That's wonderful. And yes, Australia, it is a beautiful place. The sun shines so vibrantly here, so I can understand why people from the UK will fall in love with the vibrancy and landscape of this land. But I wanted to ask you to start this conversation here with a question about you scale your business to an impressive amount of millions of pounds after struggling to gain traction with enterprise accounts. And perhaps you can explain to our audience what exactly does that mean? And can you tell us about the turning point that helped you shift this for you?
Yes, as growing the business. Now the business was in logistics, which is a tough world to be in. And at that time, in the UK alone, there were 100,000 transport companies. So we absolutely had to stand out. We had to do things differently. And I was very keen to grow the business and shift from being a transactional operator, so moving goods up and down the country, to creating a more transformational approach. So winning large enterprise accounts, winning big accounts, high value accounts. And we were consistently knocking on the door of some of the large organizations in the UK and being told, you're too risky, you're too small, we're not going to place a bet on you, we're not going to
Oh,
go with
wow.
you. And I kept thinking, how on earth are we going to grow? How will we take the business to the next level of growth? And there, I thought, well, we need to change our approach. And we decided that it would be good to really target some key accounts that we'd love to work with. So we targeted about 20 companies. And one of those companies was a company that you will have heard of and probably is also in Australia. And that is the retailer, The Body Shop.
Indeed,
Yeah.
yes. Hmm.
And at that time, it was growing incredibly fast. It was started by a female entrepreneur, an amazing woman called Anita Roddick.
That's right.
And she started The Body Shop by creating the products, all natural, in her garage. And from there, she built this global retail empire. Anyway, that was an account that I wanted to win. And so I thought, how are we going to win this? Well, I need to get to know the body shop inside out. So I went to their head office, which was about a 3 hour journey from where our offices were. I did the factory tour, I read the book, I met the senior team. I really got to know the Body Shop inside out, and I started to build a relationship with the key people in the organization. One day, they called me and said, "Hey, Rebecca, we're going to go out to tender. Would you like to pitch? Would you like to come and present? Would you like this opportunity?" And I remember thinking, wow, yes, please. This is it. I've been nurturing the relationship with these people. Now we're going to quote. And then they said, but hey, we're also going out to the three biggest competitors, the three biggest companies in the country. And my heart sank a bit, and I thought, how are we as a small business going to be able to compete with these three massive organizations, billions in revenue, where at the time I think our revenue was about 8 million. But we were successful where we absolutely beat our competitors and we won the contract. And it was because we had all of those insights gathered, knowing about the body shop, not just the body shop, but we went into the stores and spoke to their customers and we understood what was needed from a distribution perspective. So, to cut a long story short,
No, it's
that
wonderful.
was
It
when
is.
I realized that you had to do things really differently to win those big opportunities. But it didn't stop there because after the first year of operation, we nearly lost it. And then that helped me to realize something else that we needed to do differently to grow our revenue. So yes, that's the story of the Body Shop, and I hope that answers your question. And how did we go about doing it, and what did we learn? The learning was, you've got to be able to communicate strategic value and impact, not just we can do your deliveries for you, or not just whatever it is your business is. It's that strategic value and impact is the crucial piece that many miss when they're aiming to secure sort of high value clients.
Amazing. And I think what you have shared here with us, I am a small business owner, and the key thing that you had mentioned in larger scale was to get to know the client, their clients, their insights, their stuff. And that's exactly what that deep connection with this clients and audience, is that what makes that different and help us scale? And that consistency as well, that being genuine, that's also what I had learned. And listening to the story at a larger scale, I would imagine that it would have been a period of being very nervous at the same time as excitement.
I think it was a blend of both, and I think it was more excitement, but in that excitement, there were highs and lows. Excitement that they'd offered us the opportunity, but oh no, so they're going to go to our big competitors too. Okay, so we've got to really come up with something different. That's exciting. But then, will they like it? Will it resonate? Will it be relevant? So, the whole mixture of emotions go into
I
this.
can imagine.
Maria, absolutely, you're right. Yes.
Mm.
Yeah.
So, in your experience, Rebecca, so what would you say the role of mindset and confidence played when it comes to secure these opportunities?
Maria, I so love this question because for me, mindset is absolutely everything, not just in growing a business, but in life. And it's the mindset that we adopt that will transform our reality. And I don't say that lightly. It's how the lens through which we look at life and our mindset manages absolutely everything or is key to everything that we do achieve and have in life. And when it comes to winning big accounts, we cannot approach winning big accounts with a 100K mindset. We've got to approach it with a million. dollar or £1 million mindset. That's how we've got to approach it. And we've got to have the confidence of that. We've got to have the, okay, there's going to be some doubts in the background, but we have to just put those to one side and really focus on the prospect, the client, and think about the difference we can make to their business, the difference we can make to the lives of those working in the organization. And mindset is everything. And also the reframe, being able to reframe things. But mindset for me, Maria, I learned this whole thing about mindset by reading one book by Tony Robbins called Awaken the Giant Within. And I read it in my early 20s, and it is a transformational book to
That's
my
nice.
life.
That's great.
And
So
ever
many
since
people
then,
have been touched by Tony Robbins and the concept of his empowerment. But I laughed very openly when you said you can't approach this mindset with 100,000 pounds mentality. And it's so true as our belief and our posture, our mindset, and the way that we feel about that, it creates a new reality. And as I am creating my own reality in here as well, as I grow as a business owner and contacting and getting more conversations and changing the lives of women in that crossroads of career in life, I see it continuously. Their mindset comes at times with some cultural heritage of being grateful, shut up and put up. Their values and the beliefs are something that it needs to be shifted as a first step, something that it is very important to approach. I'd imagine you will agree with all of these as well.
I agree with it totally. And I kind of left school thinking I was told I wouldn't get very far. And so, you carry that with you. But in fact, when you pivot that thinking to that's just somebody's opinion, I don't have to agree with that at all. It's in me and I know what I can achieve and I'm going to go for it. Hopefully, I'll be successful. If I'm not, I'll learn along the way. And if
Mm,
we can embrace life with that kind of mentality and that mindset, I think it makes all the challenges that are hard somehow a little bit easier
mm,
because
yes.
you can find your way through it. You will find your way through it.
Indeed.
And
I wanted to ask you this question, and how do you define value, and how do leaders know the way that they're communicating it clearly? In particularly, you're talking about big accounts, big numbers, big clients, and I want our audience to relate whether it is a big account of millions of pounds or dollars to a smaller business owner. Let's say they only want a revenue of $10 million per year. So how do you define value, and how do, in your case, you communicate that?
I think for me, it's about thinking about the impact that we're going to deliver. So value equals impact. And we can only do that when we truly understand the prospect or the client, or, think about not just their here and now issues, because we're all told, aren't we? Listen and understand their needs, address those. And I like to think to go beyond that, not just their here and now needs, but also what are their strategic needs? What are they trying to do with their business? How are they trying to grow? What are they trying to achieve? Next level, rather than just positioning ourselves as we'll sort those problems here and now, which is good, but also we want to think about how can we become a strategic partner to that business. And if we want to do that, we've got to think longer term. We've got to understand their longer term goals and visions. And that's part of the reason why I nearly lost the Body Shop account because I wasn't doing that bit. I was just delivering the here and now
Mm,
and I wasn't thinking. about what was important to the body shop long term. And when that penny actually dropped and we realized that we weren't doing that, then retained that client for 20 years. So that's when I say think about the longer term impact,
Mm.
not just the value you're going to bring.
And it's so many moving components in that um, type of relationship. And also, you mentioned that it was kind of your first big client, and as you were focusing in one area of the logistics or production and the staff and so on, it was a good lesson for you to learn to tap into the long-term vision of what would they be like 10 years, 20 years. And that is something so important to think about, in my view.
It's a really excellent point, Maria, because if we just focus on the here and now, we're transactional. And really what we're thinking about is how can we be transformational to that client? What is it
Mm,
we can do that helps their business to be transformational? And it is the best business lesson I have ever learned. And it's helped me to develop my framework for winning big accounts. It helps me with all the other clients that I've ever worked with. And getting to that point of being told by the Body Shop's senior team that we were boring as a company, and I had no idea what they meant because we were doing, in my mind, everything perfectly. We were delivering on time. We had a team based at their head office. We were making everything work smoothly. And then they said we're boring. And I thought, hey, what do you mean? What do you mean? And they gave us 2 weeks to sort it out.
wow.
Even though we had a contract, they said if you can't sort this out, if you can't stop being boring, then we won't continue to work with you.
Geez, that is a hell of a shock. In coaching, we actually say this expression that the fish in the fishbowl can only see its environment, so it cannot really see anywhere else. So it is a huge lesson because you were like that fish inside the fishbowl, seeing only the environment and getting to know. It was very fast paced, even though you would have staff around you and consulting you and seeing, wow, like you're saying it here, it would have been a hell of a shock and a big, big lesson. And that actually takes me to the next question that I wanted to ask you. So I decided to work with women in mid-senior positions, that they are in contract roles or freelancing. And personally, it was my journey for so many years. I'm a migrant to Australia from Venezuela, and I had to reinvent my life completely after my marriage ended. And I had two children of my own from my previous marriage, and so on. It's been a journey of transformation and courage and determination. So I wanted to ask you, what what can women learn from your approach to client retention and that long-term value that you were referring here?
Well, I think there's some very simple processes and things that you can do to retain clients for the long term. And the first one, Maria, is to look at their business through the lens of you being in their business. So really get to understand their organization and what they're striving to achieve. So it starts with having that strategic conversation with them. What is it you're trying to achieve? Where are your goals? Where do you want to go? And then think about what it is we can do, you can do to help them achieve that strategic goal. What's
Mm,
your part in that? Ask the question, if I wasn't working in their business, what would break? If the
mm,
answer is nothing would break, I could be removed from the business as a provider, as a contractor, as a freelancer. and nothing would break, then you've got to rethink the value and the impact that you're creating in that organization.
It's so true. It's really a very key, again, turning into the mindset, but the value that you add. But also, I had found that it's so difficult for women at times to articulate that value and demonstrate it as well. So that's something. But thank you so much for sharing that. Your VITAL methodology, Rebecca, drives sustainability, growth. So could you share what it stands for and how these principles could apply to individuals navigating transitions and reinvention?
Yes, I think this works well for that. Primarily, it came from everything I learned from securing the Body Shop account and then using that methodology to win other big accounts. But it starts with V standing for vision. So we all have to create a vision for our lives, a vision for the clients that we'd like to work with. So let's take it as the example of I said earlier on that we weren't being successful. So we targeted some 20 or so accounts that we'd love to work with. So maybe do that. Think of your ideal clients, the people that you would love to work with. The clients where, or the prospects where maybe the values are aligned, because that was very much the case with me in the body shop, where you like what they do and you would love just would have love to work with them, but also you know you can make a difference to their business. So that's creating the vision. I stands for leading with insights. So that means getting to know that organization well before you ever talk to them. So learning about their business, and it's so much easier today where we have tools like ChatGPT and Perplexity to help with that research. Gather those insights, and then once we understand where they're going strategically, we can think about what is it that we can do to help transform their business and help them to reach their strategic goals faster. Because if we want to secure perhaps these larger accounts or high value clients, we need to be speaking to senior level executives. And everybody wants to speak to senior level executives. So we have to stand out. We have to offer something that's different. And the only way we can do that is by understanding what's important to them.
Mm.
So it's always standing in their shoes, always trying to understand what matters to them. So the T stands for transformation, the A stands for advocacy. So if we are aiming to win high value account clients, it's generally not just one person we need to speak to. There'll be maybe 6 to 10 decision makers in the process. So, advocacy, who are those people? What do we need to know about them? What are their problems? What are their challenges, etc., etc. And the L stands for leadership and being able to lead the client and ourselves through that whole process to win that client. There'll be highs and lows in that journey, but it's our own leadership, leading with empathy, being resilient, being self aware. That's what the L stands for, and leading the client through the journey as well. So that's what the vital method stands for, and it helps individuals, small businesses, and large businesses win those high value accounts.
I love it. I think it's great to come with such framework and methodology that is quite complete because understanding that vision then to the point of leadership and it takes that journey of great insights and getting to know it's not only one person, is the business, is the senior executive team, even the staff and their journey. Wow, it's quite complex, isn't it?
It is complex, and it can be, if you're striving to achieve really big accounts, it can be very complex. If it's smaller businesses, it's not so complex. The model is very simple though. We've got to understand the company first, whereas many will go in and try and sell their product without really thinking of the impact that product has on their business and how it will make their business better. One of the phrases I really dislike in sales is they could sell snow to the Inuits. And that's so wrong. It's not about that. We only want to sell to people where we know we can make a transformation to their business, where we can make impact, not try and
True.
sell it to everybody, regardless of whether they need it or not. That's a myth to be busted.
Exactly. I agree with that because that is not being personalized or creating that impact and the vision and sharing authentically the ethics that sales, leadership, selling, sales really need in today's competitive world, I find. But I wanted to ask you, what's one underrated skill that helps people foster trust and loyalty in any context? Could be sales, leadership, or career growth. What do you think?
I think it's emotional intelligence.
Agree,
Now, you
totally.
agree? Brilliant. I think it shifts everything.
I
The fact that
totally.
we'll be self-aware, we'll lead empathetically, we'll understand the other person's position,
Mhm.
we'll self-regulate, you know, all of those things. Leading with emotional intelligence for me is its own transformation in along with mindset. Combine those two together, there'll be no stopping you from making really good progress. So emotional intelligence is the one for me. And I thought, is it listening? But that's part of emotional intelligence. Is it being kind? I think that's part of being empathetic. So I say emotional intelligence, Maria, and I'd be interested. You agree with that? Why do you agree with that?
Well, absolutely, because when I want to say that, and this is not in any shape or form pitching about my program, but when I put it together and I borrow concepts, as you mentioned, Tony Robbins and the impact that created in you, I borrow concepts from John DeMartini, from Joe Dispenza, from the Dent Company, and I felt that the limiting beliefs and mindset was a component that needed to be included first. However, when I went to study leadership, what it really convinced me the key issue here is when we don't know where we are at in 10 key capabilities of self leadership, whether you want to be a leader yourself, we first need to lead ourselves. And I remember when I did my first emotional capital report, which is a diagnostic tool that measures your 10 capabilities of in emotional intelligence. Well, at the time, I just came from dealing with some very personal challenges, and I was quite surprised that my level of empathy and my levels of straightforwardness were very low. And I felt like, wow, this needs to be included first because otherwise, how do we start the conversation about what the person wants to envision for themselves if they don't know where they are at, if they don't know how much they know themselves? Do they have that high level of self-knowledge, self-actualization, and adaptability, optimism, resilience, you name it? And for me, when you mentioned the underrated skill that people needs to foster is emotional intelligence, and I agree from my side of the fence as I see it daily that without understanding yourself, whether you want to be a leader or not, as I mentioned, we first need to lead ourselves before is how we change that mindset before we embark into leading others or making a difference in an organization, whether you are a contractor, a freelancer, or if you want to create and package your knowledge in the future to create something bigger and leave a legacy. So that's why I agree with you.
Well, completely aligned, Maria, and that's really good to hear.
Yeah, it's beautiful. It makes our life easy and our conversations and the insights that people are getting from this exchange. Well, one last question, because I can appreciate that is a public holiday where you are and you would like to enjoy your morning and live the day and seize the day fully where
Seize the
you
day.
are. So, what legacy do you hope your work will create for other, especially the future leaders, and also all those organizations that you are working with?
Oh, such a good question, Maria. I think for me, it's around making sure that we deliver impact that helps businesses and helps individuals and helps others in some way, shape, or form. That might be to have a better business, have a better life. That's what it is for me. Create impact that
Mm,
has lasting value or lasting impact in some way. Because we really want our impact to be felt long after the invoice is paid
that's for
and
sure.
to be remembered and to be long lasting in that impact. And I think that's what I'm striving to achieve. And in all of that comes, the emotional intelligence, the kindness, the caring about other people, caring about their business, and all of those things wrapped up in emotional intelligence to help others and to be a better person myself.
Yeah, absolutely. And as we wrap up, one piece of advice that you will give to someone who feels this is more at individual level, someone who feels perhaps stuck, but she or he knows that they have untapped potential.
Well, we all have untapped potential, is the first thing I'd say. And the key is that we have to find out how we can bring that about. So, first steps for me would be one, self-awareness that you are stuck. Two, think about what it is you could do to release that unstuckness. And a great tool to do that would be ChatGPT.
Yes.
Ask ChatGPT for some ideas. You're feeling stuck. What could I do to become unstuck? Ask it to list some recommendations. That could be some books, it could be some meditations, it could be some sitting down and talking with somebody and just asking for their view and somebody who knows you, who you trust. And then when you've got all of those things, take action because in taking action, we feel better. We don't feel stuck. I know that myself. When I take action, I don't feel stuck. I might not get the exact results I'm looking for, but I'm making progress and I learn from what that progress that I've taken. It teaches me things. It helps me to improve. It helps me to become unstuck.
That's
So,
great. And the exponential growth of ChatGPT as counselors, coaches,
yeah,
mentors is quite amazing. However, it will never replace that human
it will not.
reality and the human connection, regardless that we can't really improvise at that speed and high level speed that ChatGPT can respond. So that's what I love, these authentic conversations. But it's so true, and everyone has untapped potential. However, it's about your belief, your taking action, and understanding that it doesn't happen overnight, not only for
Yeah.
gaining $1 million or millions of pounds account, but also creating that next step to tap into the vision of who you want to be. And you say something so insightful here. Well, think about that vision. If that organization will survive without you, you're not really key person of influence, well, think about how could you create that opportunity. And that is very insightful, not only for our audience, but for ourselves, daily thinking, how can we make that personal transformation for ourselves and for the people that are surrounding us. I want to thank you so much, Rebecca, for this amazing time together and your generosity of spending time to our audience, getting to know you, and getting to know you as well.
Maria, big thanks to you. Thank you very much. And do you know what? It's been amazing because we've only met once before, but we are connected through that understanding that emotional intelligence
Yeah.
is key. And you arrive at a place with another person when they also understand how important emotional intelligence is. You just think they get it. And you mentioned Joe Dispenza, and I think he's amazing as well.
Oh, I love him. Yes, his meditations is something and someone that his books have transformed my life in at times of challenging times. They oh, I forget all the things, but I carry the walking meditation in my phone and all the beautiful transformative work that he preaches and talks and sells and teaches all around the world. And I think he loves coming to Australia and teaching all his programs here as well. Thank you so much, Rebecca. I'll see you in the huddle on our program sometime in the near future. And I
Yes.
love, and I'll be in touch as well with some snippets for this wonderful time together with you.
Thank you.